Screw you guys. I'm not putting music on this video. It's too long. I can't be bothered with that. I'm not putting in the effort. I'm not putting in an hour of like different music. I'm not doing it. It's too much. Also, I filmed this like 2 months ago, so ignore some of the stuff I say.
Alright, let's do this one more time. Okay, so, my first ever video uploaded to this channel was my Sonic the Hedgehog comic book collection. And of course, it's been over a year since that video came out. It did alright views-wise. It's the second, actually no, I think it's the third most viewed video on my channel. So, you know what? Let's make it a yearly thing, like the game collection. Every year, I'm going to show off my Sonic comics. Around this time of year, sort of August, September, October, maybe November if I'm feeling really lazy. Anyway, let's not beat around the bush too much because these videos tend to go on for ages, and that means I have to find music that's like put in music for 40 minutes. So let's just get started. Let's start at the beginning. Well, not really the beginning. The beginning of the IDW Sonic the Hedgehog comics. Now, I'm assuming you've seen my other collection video, but for the sake of argument, we'll say you haven't, so I'm basically going to be repeating myself a lot. So the Sonic the Hedgehog comic books, right, have been around since the character's been around, since the early 90s. Now, there have been three main runs, okay? The Fleetway run, of which I own none of, so just don't worry about it. The Archie run, which I own a little bit of, and we'll get to later. And the IDW run, which is the main sort of focus of mine. The IDW Sonic comics started in 2018 and have been going ever since. They are canon to the games, they take place in the same universe, feature the same characters, and they're generally very good. I have my problems with them. I mean, I'm going to have issues with anything. That's just how being a person with opinions works. But for the most part, they're great. So we start at the beginning, right? Now this is not an issue, this is a trade paperback. Basically what that is a reprint of old issues, but compiling them together. So like here we have the first 4 issues of the IDW run, all written by Ian Flynn with varying artists. Now, Ian Flynn has been writing Sonic comics for like 16, 17 years at this point, and he wrote the story for Sonic Frontiers, you know, the game that came out last year. So he's pretty experienced when it comes to writing these characters. He knows what he's doing. That doesn't mean it's impossible for him to make like decisions that I disagree with. I was about to say mistakes, but no, we're going to go with decisions I disagree with. But on the whole, he does a very good job. These first 4 issues, I really like. They sort of introduce you to the characters one at a time, with Sonic being present in all of them. So like you meet Tails, you meet Amy, you meet Knuckles, and then Blaze and new character Tangle are introduced in issue 4. It's pretty cool. The comic follows on from the events of Sonic Forces, because that was the newest game at the time when they started. But you don't need to have played Forces, and to be perfectly honest, don't play Forces. Please don't. It's not fun. It's not a very good game. Go watch my my most recent game collection if you want my thoughts on Forces. Man, that game is not good. But yeah, right. If you want to collect the Sonic comics, the best way to go is these trade paperbacks, the sort of blue kind of graphic novel reprints of them. You could go for the hardbacks, although I think they're a little bit more expensive. I don't know. I haven't checked. But this is the route I went with the paperbacks. I would recommend them. I would recommend this comic as a whole. It's very, very good. Anyway, that was issues 1 to 4, by the way. The next one, The Fate of Dr. Eggman, is issues 5 to 8. Also very good. Shadow's a little bit out of character, but like, Shadow's been out of character for ages now. The only time they've gotten him right in the last like 15 years was the Archie Sonic comics and Sonic Prime, weirdly. He's in character in that. He actually has a reason to be angry at Sonic, as opposed to just being angry at him all the time. Also, Sonic's really annoying in Sonic Prime, so, like, you're more willing to side with Shadow. Anyway, issues 5 to 8 are very good. I love issue 8 because I love Silver. Silver's written so well in these comics. Well, we'll get to some of the more recent stuff, but whatever. Yeah, issues 5 to 8, very cool. Issue 7 has some really, really nice artwork in it, like really nice artwork. The artwork is generally very good. This is like one of my favorite panels in the whole series. But like, Art is a difficult thing to criticize because it's quite subjective a lot of the time. Is it better to be more on model, to have your own style? Personally, there are things that I like about certain artists and things that I don't like about other artists. I just want to make it clear right now. When I criticize things, I'm not criticizing the artist. They all do a great job and we owe a lot to them as fans. I'm just giving my take, okay? You know, my take, it's not that important. It's just my opinion. This is all my opinions. This is all just what I think. You know, make up your own mind on these comics. Go read them. They're good. You know, the people who make them deserve your money. More than you do. They deserve your money. Give them all your money. Anyway, so Volume 3, Battle for Angel Island, issues 9 to 12. Generally, these trade paperbacks have 4 issues in them. That's not always true, but for the most part, they do. Yeah, this is probably the best era of the comic. I think you can sort of split the comic into sort of series. You know, how you split like a TV show into series. And I think these first 3 that I've shown you, this is like series 1 for the most part. It's kind of, you know, one sort of story from issues 1 to 12. But yeah, this bit of the comic is great. And I would strongly, strongly recommend it to any Sonic fan. The next bit is great as well. And to be honest, most of it is great. But that's the most essential bit, I think, for any Sonic fan. Only if you really like that bit, go on and read the rest of it. Because if you don't, you're not going to like the rest of it. But man, these are some good comic books. Great references. Oh, we love it. The artwork is wonderful. So we move into Volume 4. Now, this is when things start getting a bit serious. Like, real serious. Sonic gets the coronavirus. And he starts turning into a robot. It makes sense if you read it. You just trust me on this one. It's really good. This bit of the comic. There's like a whole thing called the metal virus, and it's very cool, and we love to see it. It's great. Okay, go read the metal virus, because the metal virus is incredible. It's a really, really cool idea, and Ian Flynn, he does a great job with it. And I would definitely recommend these issues. There's a lot to be said about this arc. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of characters, because, you know, there are tons of Sonic characters. And seeing how each of them react to the situation is very interesting. You know, we love to see it, basically. Yeah, check it out. Volume 5, Crisis City. It's clickbait. The title is clickbait. It has nothing to do with Sonic 06. It's just a kind of cute reference. This is the one where characters start dying. I'm not going to tell you who dies, because that's kind of spoilery, but characters start dying, and it's not great. Well, not great for them. It's great for us, the audience. I think the worst thing about this bit of the comic is Shadow's characterization. He is horribly out of character in this bit. I don't want to talk about it, okay? Ian Flynn knows how to write Shadow, he just isn't allowed to. Sega, for some reason, hates Shadow. I don't really get it, but their idea of who Shadow is supposed to be is quite different to my idea. I mean, it's not like I have any say in it, it just kind of annoys me. It's just one of those things that gets under your skin. I think Shadow of all characters being out of character, because he is one of the Sonic characters who has the most in-depth backstory and the most reason to be a good guy. Like, his all that stuff in SA2 is so well thought out and cleverly done. It just makes it's kind of annoying to see him be presented as just strong, angry man. But whatever. It is just a comic book at the end of the day. Doesn't stop me being kind of annoyed by it. Anyway, Volume 6, The Last Minute. Great to see the Cyclone again. It gets blowed up. So no idea how it's in Frontiers. I guess Tails rebuilt it. And this is when things start getting really serious. Issue 23 is great. It's basically just Sonic and Eggman talking to each other for the whole issue. But that is one complaint, actually, I've heard with IDW a lot. There's too much dialogue. And, that's kind of true. But then again, you buy a comic book, it's a book. It's not just pictures. I mean, yeah, visual storytelling is cool and all, but I can kind of see what people mean when they say that. Yeah, looking at this, there is a lot of speech bubbles, but Ian Flynn has always been good at the character bits of Sonic. By the way, I should mention, literally everything so far has been written by Ian Flynn. All of it. I'll tell you when other writers start getting involved. But yeah, this bit of the comic's great. Character deaths are sad. The artwork is, mostly great, and it's a great run of Sonic the Hedgehog comics. They really knew what they were doing. One complaint with this era that I hear a lot is that it goes on a bit, and that is true. It goes on probably longer than it needed to, but I'm willing to excuse it. Not really because I have a good reason to excuse it, but just because, I wasn't reading the comic when this stuff was new. I started reading, well, you'll know when I started reading because we switched from trade paperbacks to actual, issues. I didn't have to wait for this stuff to come out. I bought all this stuff in the space of like a week. Well, okay, I read all this stuff in the space of like a couple weeks, so I wasn't waiting, a month between each issue, because like each one of these volumes took 4 months to come out, individually, which is quite a while. But you know what? From, my perspective, as someone who bought all this stuff up after the fact, I didn't mind it being too long. It feels about the right length. And I imagine that's how it feels during the writing process as well. Whereas to someone reading, it just feels like they're spending ages building all this stuff up. And I can see how that would be annoying. I can relate to that feeling because I have felt like that with the newer stuff. But we'll get to that. Anyway, Volume 7, All or Nothing. This one has a great cover, by the way. I think his name's Reggie Graham, the guy that did this one. I don't know. I could look it up, but I don't. Go look it up if you want to know who did that. That's your job. I'm not doing that. So this one is a bit of an exception with the trade paperback thing. This collects 5 issues rather than 4. I don't know why. I don't think they've ever given a reason. I think it's just because they wanted to include that last issue because it kind of would end on a cliffhanger otherwise. Because where does issue 28 end? Yeah, issue 28 ends on a cliffhanger, and 29 kind of sort of resolves it, but then also ends on a cliffhanger. But basically, this is the end of the Metal Virus. The Metal Virus ends here. It's all cool. There's a lot of characters, a lot going on. By the end of the Metal Virus, I think the original idea was kind of diluted. Like the focus shifts around a lot by this point. But, it still works very well. And yeah, no, you can really see what people are saying about the dialogue in like pages like this. That's a lot. Like a lot. But no, I would still absolutely strongly recommend the whole Metal Virus era of the comic. It still is very good. And it does a lot of things with the characters that, you wouldn't expect. Volume 8, Out of the Blue. Now, this collects only 3 issues. It includes some spin-off stuff, but we'll get to that later. These 3 issues are fine. They're sort of just tying up loose ends and kind of setting up what's going to happen next. With a big battle with Eggman and his egg Glock, which is a gun that he just tries to shoot Tails with a gun. That comes up later. That's like a whole thing. We love the egg Glock. And Sonic also gets sent to a parallel universe or like alternate dimension, but he's only there for 2 issues, and there's like a thing where he loses his memory or something, but that's resolved super quick. Basically, this bit is kind of up to issue 32. This is like Ian Flynn's. Hold on, this is like his magnum opus, right? This is his, I think, best contribution to the worlds of Sonic, these 32 issues, because they form one coherent story. Each issue builds on the last. And it's not to say that the stuff after this is bad, because of course, no, it's not. But that's when other writers start getting involved with the main series and it becomes more of an ensemble piece, whereas this is his singular contribution. Well, I mean, I say singular, like, no, look at all those names on the side. Obviously, editors and colorists and the artists, it's not just him, but this is, I think, along with Frontiers, this is his main contribution to Sonic. This is the thing I think he'll be remembered for the most, the whole Metal Virus thing, because it's great. It does a lot of really interesting things. Like, in terms of flaws with these first, couple series of the comic, it's maybe a little bit too long. It maybe is a little bit too wordy. There's maybe a few too many characters. And that's about it. I'm struggling to think of really anything else. It's just there's a little bit too much. But yeah, no, that's about it. It's basically great. Really, go check it out. Like, really, go check it out. Oh, it's so good. Also, I love how Eggman's moustache covers up the word hog, so that it just says Sonic the Hedge. That's cool. Anyway, so what happened after this? Well, issue 33, we got a new writer for the main series. They had written bits of, Sonic the Hedgehog stuff before. Evan Stanley. Now, you may recognize the name from the stuff I've already shown you, because Evan Stanley, she is an artist for the series, right? She does a lot of the artwork, and she's great at it. If I just want to refresh your memory, I'm pretty sure this cover is her. And like issue 4, that was her. So like this, yeah, this is all her. So as I'm sure you can see, she's very good at what she does. And as a writer, I think she had a fan comic that she used to do called Ghosts of the Future, which is about like Silver and Sonic gets like murdered and turns into a ghost. It's all right. It gets better later on. The early stuff is kind of shaky, but there's some really good stuff in there. So she seems like an obvious choice for the main series. She's experienced. She wrote a little bit for the Archie run, and she wrote a couple annual stories. We'll get to those. And she seems like an obvious choice, to sort of take over the head reins from Ian. Now, her version of the Sonic comic is different. It's definitely different to Ian's. So whereas Ian's was more, each story builds on the last, it's like building a brick wall, straight up. I'm doing an analogy thing here. Evan Stanley's is more like building different pillars that eventually connect, if that makes any sense. So things are a little bit more disjointed. You don't know quite where it's going as much. So like you read Chow Races and Badnik Bases, and which is this one here, volume 9, and it's quite a refreshing, change of pace from what came before. It's just a fun side story with these characters while having some stuff in it that's obviously going to matter later. And that's quite a good way of doing it, introduce a new character, sort of further the characters you've already got, tie up some loose ends. It's cool. It is cool. And it also, uses elements from the games to tell a new story. This is, I think, one of Evan Stanley's best one of her best contributions to the series. Complaints? Sonic is just a little bit out of character, to me, anyway. He feels a little bit more like Sonic Colors Generation Sonic, where he just spends the whole time cracking lame jokes. And, he can't stay in a room for, 30 minutes without getting incredibly bored. That feels like a bit of an over-exaggeration of his character. That feels like the kind of thing movie Sonic would do. But it's not character breaking or anything. It just seemed a little bit odd to me, but whatever. Evan Stanley does a very good job here. There are definitely issues. Again, Shadow is out of character, but you got to blame Sega for that, not the writers. And you know what? It's good. It is good. Chow Races and Badnik Bases, it inspired hope for the future. Oh yeah, by the way, I got 2 of them. I get into this in my original video. Basically, I pre-ordered this one. Actually, no, I pre-ordered this one. I can't remember which one's which. That one's got a kind of scuffed corner, which is how I tell them apart. Basically, I ordered this one. I pre-ordered this because it wasn't out. The trade paperback. It took about 12 months to arrive. Not joking. Thanks for that, Amazon. And then in the meantime, I just decided, yeah, this is never going to arrive. I was like, oh, I'll buy another one and then cancel my order. It wouldn't let me cancel my order for some reason. And then when it finally did show up, 6 months after I got this one, so I ended up with 2. Whatever, it's fine. I still keep it for some reason. I'm sure I'll find something to do with it one day. Anyway, so that is the point at which I stopped buying the trade paperbacks, because around February 2021 was when I got into the comic. I don't remember the exact date. It was issue 41 was the newest issue when I got into the comic. Okay, that's all I remember. Look up when the date is if you want to know when I got in the comic. Anyway, issue 37. So this is part of a 4-part arc called Test Run, which is basically, again, it's an interesting idea. You can tell that Evan Stanley's been thinking, what would I do with Sonic for the past 20 years, right? Because the areas she immediately goes to is Sonic 4 references and Chow Races and Badnik Bases combined with Omega and Rouge and Amy and the whole Chow Racing thing. And Test Run is an interesting idea. It basically goes over the whole, Eggman has all these inventions. Where does he test them out? And it is an interesting idea because we don't know that. Where does he develop them? Does he have a center where he does research and development? And this is basically that. Issue 37 is mostly just set up for the arc going forward. I'm not going to spend as much time on each individual issue. Issue 38 sort of furthers it. It's like Sonic, Tails, and Amy sort of lost in the development facility, and it's kind of got some like analog kind of creepy horror stuff, although it's not scary, but it's trying to be, and it works. I like Test Run. It is good. Evan Stanley was definitely doing some stuff that I liked at this point, and to an extent they still are. My issues are mainly just with pacing, to be perfectly honest. Oh yeah, and character, by the way. This character here, the digital circus looking character, that's Belle, the Tinkerer. I do not like her. Not because she's a bad character, they spent way too long on her, okay? Right, like every issue had her as a main player for at least like 15, 16 issues, which might not sound too bad. You can read an issue in about 5 minutes. However, you gotta remember these are one a month. So for, a year and a half, she was the only character that they seemed to be doing anything with. A nice one, guys. I really appreciated that. But you know what? It's still fine at this point. It wasn't a major issue. It was just a slight annoyance. Issue 39, basically the same. Eggman doing like VR stuff. They beat up some robots. Pretty cool. It has a joke I like in it. Oh, by the way, one thing that's always annoyed me. Can we stop with the My Little Pony ads on the back? Please. It's embarrassing. Like, genuinely embarrassing. Please stop doing this. No one's buying them anyway. Issue 40, which, sort of rounds off the arc. Good, the artwork's good, the writing's still pretty good. Sonic is better in terms of, like, character here. And yeah, Belle's still here, but she could be worse. They're doing some character stuff with her. Like, the end here, it's fine. It's fine. This is all fine. This is all still fine. Like 6, 7 out of 10, the comics were still working for me at this point. I liked them. And I still do. But I have more issues as we go forward. So this next arc, Zeti Hunt, is basically just tying up loose ends from the metal virus, because the Zeti is still sort of loose. Let me just get all the issues out. That's probably easier if I do it in that order. Hold on. Yeah, so Zeti Hunt, right, 4-issue arc. Ian Flynn's back. He's writing again. And basically what they're doing here is, just tying up what's going on with the Zeti, trying to capture them, also a little bit more with Belle and Starline. I haven't mentioned Starline yet. He's basically an original villain. He's like an Eggman fanboy. That's like his whole thing. And, it was good. I guess. I didn't think it was bad, so it must be good. I guess. It doesn't... This is the point at which I started to think, they're really not giving any signals as to what they're building towards. Because, like, if we think about the last 3 arcs of the comic book, tying up loose ends, fun little side story, they kind of build towards the future, but also not really. Like, introduce a new character and say that Starline is doing something. Further that character... No, that's it. That's all that does. And further that character and also further Starline a little bit, but not in a way that's made especially obvious to the audience. It just doesn't... It doesn't quite feel direction. Like they're going anywhere. And that might not seem too bad, but you've got to remember that's 12 issues. That's a year. That's a year's worth of comic books. And as someone who, by the previous stuff, I was conditioned to, sort of expect these big plot lines. Smaller stuff is fine. Side stories, sort of misadventures is perfectly fine. But this is the main series. So Archie Sonic, right, the original, sort of run, I think had the best way of doing it. They had a main series, which was like stuff that mattered, the important bits, and then they had a side series where they would use more other writers and tell stuff that was less important to the plot. I think that's the best way to do it, because then you get the best of both worlds. You get fun side stories which explore like characters and character pairings we don't get to see that often, as well as the main series which has the important plot stuff. That, I think, is the ideal way to do it. Whereas this way, you just end up with kind of scattered, disconnected plot threads that will eventually tie together, but it's not clear how when you're reading it. your first impressions of something form a lot of your opinions about it. And for me, as I was reading this, I was thinking, yeah, this is fine. I don't really know why I should care. They haven't given me that reason yet. And now I have the reason. A couple years later, I know why this stuff was important. But at the time, I was only reading it because I was a Sonic fan. The earlier stuff, I was genuinely interested to see where it was going. And with this stuff, I didn't know where it was going. And I didn't feel like even they knew where it was going. It just felt like, hey, you know what would be fun? Which is a fine approach, but following on from the whole metal virus thing, it's just not quite the same. It's still well written, the characters are still fun, it's still a good time, and from the perspective of now, it's perfectly fine, because you can just read all of it in like a week, right? Because it's all out. But when you had to wait a month for each new tiny bit of plot, it's just not quite what I like to see from my media. I like important things to happen. Anyway, it's like people talk about with anime, like filler arcs. I don't watch anime, so I wouldn't know, but it's that sort of thing. By the way, speaking of filler, this arc, this 3-issue arc, Trial by Fire, that was it. I was trying to remember what it was called. Literally nothing of any consequence happens in these issues. It's a Sonic Universe plotline, right? Belle is sad. Apparently, Tangle and Whisper have got something going on. Something's going on there. No idea. They don't really elaborate on it, to be honest, and it kind of doesn't get brought up really very much. And there's a forest fire, and they save the day. Why is this here? Leading up to issue 50, the big important one. Why are we doing this? It's a bit of a contrast, like issue 47 of IDW and issue 47 of Archie. Because issue 47 of Archie was like, Sonic's been framed, he's on the run. Issue 47 of IDW, there's a river. That's it. And this, again, would work fine if it was like a Sonic Universe sort of thing, where it was a spin-off. But the fact that it's being billed as a sequel to the Metal Virus, basically, it's just kind of disconnected. And it was still, it's still well written. The characters are still fun. The artwork's still good. It's not bad. It's just not especially exciting, if that makes any sense. And I know that this sounds really mean. Look, Evan Stanley, you're great, okay? You're really good at what you do. It's just, this is, personally, how I feel. And it's not a slight on you in any way at all. You're great at your job. Please keep doing what you're doing. I've loved your work in the past, and I will get to my favorite issue of the comic, which was written by you. This is personally not how I would do it if I were in charge. But I'm not in charge. You're in charge. This is not for me to tell you how to do your job. You've been successful, more successful than I have. It's keep doing your thing, basically, because you're good at it and people like it. This is just me expressing the thoughts that I felt when reading it. I like to think that this is constructive criticism. I'm trying to help, express how I feel about these comics in a way that is positive and uplifting. I'm trying. My old video wasn't especially positive and uplifting. That's why I'm redoing it, basically. I just want people to be happy, basically. That includes you, that includes me, that includes everybody. Anyway, no time for philosophy. We're going to talk about issue 48 of the Sonic the Hedgehog IDW comics. What the Chaotix do a thing. That's it. They just sort of they stop a bad guy, and it will be important later, we promise. Yeah, that was worthwhile. Issue 49. Okay, this is actually set up for issue 50. Okay, thank God. And Belle's here. Great. Nice, neat. She gets some closure from Mr. Tinker, her dad. Don't worry about it. Read the comics. It'll make sense. And they're running towards a big city, and they're going to fight 2 new villains. Who are those 2 new villains? Surge and Kit. Surge and Kit are great. By the way, written by Ian Flynn. Cool. So this is what they were building towards, right? Except not really. Because there's not a lot from the previous issues that actually matters in this issue. There's a character dies. I'm not going to say who. A character dies, and it's not really very sad, to be honest. But it is a good issue. It's just not quite. A lot of I said this on Twitter the other day. A lot of the big anniversary issues tend to not really be my thing. I'm more into the smaller scale stories. But then again, I say that, and I was just complaining about Evan Stanley's run being too small scale. So never mind. Ignore everything I say. I'm a liar. I'm not. I don't know what I'm talking about. Look, basically what I'm saying is this is a good issue. It just has some flaws because it feels a little bit out of place with what it's around. Like if you consider the 4 issues before this, they were all side stories. It just feels a little bit out of nowhere. The more important stuff is in the mini series, Imposter Syndrome, which again we'll get there. Now, issue 51, the sequel to this one. At this point, I was sort of feeling a little bit disillusioned with the comic. I was like, yeah, this is fine. I don't know. It's not really my thing. Not a lot of consequences really happening. It's just kind of an adventure, which is fine. I was interested to see where they were going to go with Surge and Kit. They have cool designs, and I like them. Sonic gets injured, which is a thing that happens a surprising amount going forward from this issue. He keeps getting injured. He can't seem to help himself. But anyway, it was fine. It was perfectly fine. It was acceptable. Issue 52, again, perfectly fine. The artwork is nice. Surge is doing stuff. So it turns out she didn't actually die. Yeah, that was a bit of a fake. Thanks for that, guys. Yeah, I appreciate it. But it's fine. It's perfectly fine. I don't think this is bad. I don't think this is bad in any way. And, things of consequence are happening here, which is what I wanted. So it's, it's good. It is good. Like 6 out of 10. They are moving forwards. Now, around issue 53, a change starts to happen. This is when I started getting invested again. Like, quite sincerely invested again. So Whispers sort of pulled back into things, and they do something kind of cool with the Wisps and the artwork. Ooh, nice job, guys. Real nice job. And this is the first point at which something written by Evan Stanley, well, in the main series, Ghosts of the Future, I cared about, but I was really starting to get invested in what was going to happen next. Because it's not that I thought her other stuff was bad, I just wasn't massively caring about where it was going, because it didn't really give me any reason to care about where it was going. This gives you a reason to care where it's going, right? I would really recommend this stuff. Issue 54 as well. Sonic is treating Surge just like a villain of the week. It's like The Spot, but a year earlier. It really does make you feel for her, which is weird because she's the bad guy, but it makes her more sort of sympathetic, and Evan Stanley is just absolutely nailing it with the art, by the way. And the whole Wisp thing, I don't particularly like the Wisps. They're fine. I don't dislike them. They're a sort of whatever concept to me. But this is the point at which I think a lot of the elements start to come together. I personally think this stuff should have been the issue 50. I think issue 56, this should have been the big issue 50 final clash, not the actual issue 50 we got. Maybe condense it down a bit, cut some bits out, and I think you would have ended up with basically a perfect issue 50. Because issues 55 and 56 are like 2 of my favorite issues we've had in years. Since the Metal Virus, I think these are my 2 favorite issues. Genuinely, they absolutely knock it out of the park. This was like late 2022, I think. Great job with these guys, like genuinely. They're so good. Issue 56 especially has some of my favorite stuff in the entire series. These 2 pages here are like my favorites ever. And they're surprisingly lacking on the dialogue, and I think that's why they work so well, because there's quite a contrast. Genuinely, go check out these 2 issues. You kind of need the build-up of the stuff before it to understand what's going on, but trust me, these are absolutely worth it. Now, moving into the next arc. This is what was it called? No, genuinely, what was this arc called? I've forgotten. Something City? Escape from the City? No, they wouldn't do that. It's called whatever. Don't worry about it. These issues, they are good. Issue 57 has a moment in it that I don't really like. Tangle says something very insensitive while Whisper is there, as I'm sure you can see here. It's not great, especially as someone who likes Tangle. as a character to see her do that, but she regrets it in literally the next issue, so it's fine. It's one moment. Also, Ian Flynn is back on writing duty for these, which is always nice to see, because I think he gets these characters in a way that no one else can quite match, and that's not a slight on Evan Stanley. She gets the characters as well, of course she does, but Ian Flynn has always been, I think, the person who gets them the most. It's like if Ian Flynn gets each of these characters 100%, Evan Stanley gets them 99%, if you know what I'm saying. But great issues. 58 specifically is one of my absolute favorites from this bit. Now, issue 50... Wait, no, hold on. 58, actually. I've got to show you a favorite moment of mine. There's bits with Silver that are genuinely so good. Like this panel here. It's so good. I love the sort of banterous relationship they got going on here. It's very good. Now, issue 59, we're back into Evan Stanley territory. And she does a great job at sort of continuing, what Ian had going in the first two issues. I like this one. I do still like this one. Now, I started to sort of fall off again around this point. Not because the comic got bad. Of course, no. The comic has never been bad. Ever. There is no bad issue of it. Well, we'll talk about it. But around issue 60, despite issue 60 having the best covers of any issue in the entire series, just look, they're so great. It's still good, but it just has some little issues. I feel like there's a little bit too much going on, and the comic doesn't quite explore some of the things that I kind of wished it would. And Tangle's whole whether she can fall through things or not is incredibly inconsistent. They keep changing their minds about whether she's solid or not. It's not. It's good. It is still very good. It's just the ending. I think issue 61, is a bit anticlimactic. It's fine. It's just, Shadow just clicks his fingers and destroys it all basically. Okay, I mean, Chaos Control has always kind of been a bit of a Deus Ex Machina, but I can't ignore it. As a fan, it just sort of, he just did a Chaos Control and ended the story. It doesn't quite feel earned, but I don't know, it was fine. This is fine. We're back to fine, good enough territory. 6 out of 10. Perfectly passable, enjoyable, okay. The characters are all in character, the dialogue is fun. It's fine. So that whole arc, let me just talk about it real quick. 58, 59, I would strongly recommend. 57, 60, and 61 are good. But 58 and 59 are basically perfect. I love these two issues so much. They're two of my absolute favorites. So along with 55 and 56, they are the best examples of this modern, the modern era of this comic. And then we sort of move into this new era, which I guess they can't make up their minds on. I think it's called The Misadventures arc. Oh, we're doing that again. And, it had me worried that we were just going to go back into random stories that don't really connect, which is, not why I come to these comic books. But, issue 62 was fun, and I liked it. It sort of reintroduces Mimic, a character from earlier who I haven't really talked about, but he's cool. I've always liked Mimic. And, it's not exactly my thing, but it does a perfectly fine job. Issue 63. This is the point at which they start splitting their issues into two stories. So you get your first story, which is written by Evan Stanley, and then your second story, which is written by Ian Flynn. And they both focus on different characters. The second story is an absolute masterpiece. I love it. It's basically about Sonic and Blaze running through Spagonia from Sonic Unleashed, which is one of my favorite games in the series. And story 1 is about Silver getting framed by Duo, who is actually Mimic in disguise. Now, a lot of people didn't like this because Lanolin, this character here, the sheep one, is telling Silver to do better, even though Silver's actually done nothing wrong. And yeah, that's true. However, with issue 64, actually, this is a better example of it. Lanolin is basically telling Silver he's the worst person ever, when in fact he's actually correct about Duo being, all this stuff here. He is correct. Duo is in fact Mimic in disguise. However, he doesn't quite have the evidence yet, and I think his actions are a bit irrational considering it's only a theory at this point. He doesn't actually have any proof. The cover is sort of supposed to convey how everyone views him. And, I've always noticed the Sonic comics always beat down on Silver. There's he never gets any Requiem in this entire series. Everyone hates this guy. But, Whisper's along with him too, so I guess that's fine. And then, of course, there's the second story, which is, again, about Sonic and Blaze, and also Silver, who has gotten over it pretty quick, by the looks of it. Anyway, then they decide to go to Soliana, so that's cool. Wait, what? Hold on a minute. Soliana, like Sonic 06 Soliana? Oh, let me check this out. I've heard there's a city called Soliana. Okay, well, she obviously has never been there before, because she's like, oh, I've heard of it. So I guess that means 06 didn't happen. Cool, remember this. Just remember the whole, oh yeah, 06, the events didn't happen, because it's going to be important later. I know this video is getting on a bit, what the hell, you don't care. You watch this far, you're going to watch the rest of it. Yeah, issue 65, 2 stories. First one's about Knuckles and the Chaotix. That was pretty cool. It was fine. It's side stories, and it's enjoyable, it's well done. And the second story is about Cream the Rabbit getting beaten up and robbed. So naturally, I loved it. Yeah, issue 65 is fine. It's perfectly acceptable. I think the comic never goes below a 6 out of 10 for me. It's all, we'll get to the one issue that does. But, this comic is consistently good. It is consistently enjoyable. The characters are always in character, except for Shadow. It's very well done. This is the most recent issue, by the way. Yeah, so we're up to date. That's the first 65 issues of the comic. And, I think we can all agree it is a very good comic book. It has its issues, but, everything has its issues. And compared to a lot of other comic books, it's incredible. It's like a masterpiece. The amount of issues that some other comic books have. This is an incredibly consistent run of comic books. Anyway, on to the spin-offs. So this is a trade paperback of the Tangle and Whisper miniseries, right? Contains all 4 issues. It's a good miniseries. It sort of takes place between issue 12 and 13. Well, okay, according to the official timeline, it takes place between 16 and 17. I disagree. I think it takes place between 12 and 13. But, it's up to Ian Flynn, not me. But that's what I think, anyway. No one cares. And we have the next miniseries here, Bad Guys. Yeah, this one's fine. This is between issues 32 and 33. It's basically just explains what Starline's been up to, and also has some other villains in there, like Zavok and Mimic and Rough and Tumble, who are comic-exclusive characters, whatever. And it's good. It is good. Now, this here, Imposter Syndrome, this is basically the build-up to issue 50. For some reason, it's in a mini-series instead of in the main comic. But it is good. I do like Imposter Syndrome. It has issues, I won't deny that. Namely that it doesn't massively progress anything, like in terms of plot. There's not a massive amount going on. It's just sort of characters talking to each other, which is fine. I'm not some, guy who only watches the MCU who's going to complain about films because no explosions. It's like, is this a real film? That's not me, okay? I like the dialogue. It's characters talking about how they feel for a very long period of time, and that's fine. But, a lot of the time actions speak louder than words with in real life and with characters in media. And I think we would be better off maybe seeing the characters in action a little bit more while still having room for the dialogue. But whatever, it's not a massive issue. This is like a tiny, tiny issue. It doesn't really bother me that much at all. And issue 4 is basically all action anyway. So, you know what, that's fine. They totally made up for it, and we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to move on. Yeah, no, Imposter Syndrome is good, and it's very important to the plot. So, it's good. Now, Scrapnik Island was a 4-issue miniseries. Now, me being the dumbest person just ever, I just missed the first 2 issues. I just didn't get them. I just forgot, basically. So I've only got 3 and 4, and they are very good. But shock, revelation, twist, like a couple weeks ago, or like a month ago, I don't really know, they released the Scrapnik Island trade paperback, which I bought so I could get the first 2 issues. I bought it at Forbidden Planet in London, actually. They were doing a signing there for like a Doctor Who book, which I got signed. That was like yesterday, I think. Oh, cool, very cool. Keith Temple, the guy that wrote it, he's a nice guy. I'll talk to him for a bit. But anyway, Scrapnik Island, very good. It's written by a guy called Daniel Barnes. Can we please get this guy doing more stories? Because he's genuinely really, really good. His characterization of Sonic is, probably better than Ian Flynn's, actually. I would strongly recommend Scrapnik Island, especially now that you can buy the trade paperback of it. You don't even have to go searching for the issues. Yeah, I would strongly recommend this bit of the comic. It is very, very good. Now that's it for miniseries. There is one on the way about Fang the Hunter, but it's not out yet. So we're going to move on to the annuals. Now the annuals, right, they've done the 3 of them. They did the 2019 annual, the 2020 annual, and the 2022 annual. They skipped 2021 and also 2023. No idea why. Maybe they were just busy that year. Now, the 2019 annual is included as a part of Tangle and Whisper, the trade paperback, which I'm sure you can see here. And it's perfectly fine. It has a story in it called Victory Garden, which, despite being only like 6 pages long, is like the best thing these comics have produced. It stars Blaze and Silver. Not really sure where it goes timeline-wise. There's a very specific time period of which both of these characters are in the same dimension and time period. It can only take place between like issue 4 and 7. It has to be somewhere between those two, but it's not really clear exactly where. But it is good. It is very good. I would recommend the 2019 annual. I'd recommend reading it between issue 12 and 13 though, because that's roughly where a lot of the stories take place. Where is it? The 2020 annual was included as a part of Out of the Blue, because, it only had 3 issues in it, so they sort of crowbarred it in. And it is good. It has good stories in it. Reflections, this one here with Metal Sonic is great. It takes place after, like, issue 40. No, after issue 15, I think. It's great. It's a good story. Very good story. I would recommend the 2020 annual as well. It has some important plot stuff in it, and it is good. There's not a massive amount to say about the annuals, to be honest. They're just little side stories written by a selection of different writers. Now, the 2020 annual, which I just actually have as an annual, is great. Like the 2020 annual a lot. The story with Blaze and Knuckles is interesting because they are quite similar characters. So it's, good to see them talking to each other. And they do like a sequel to the story I was just talking about with Silver and Blaze. And it's fine. It's not quite as good, but it's a very dialogue-heavy story, which I think is... It's fine. It's good to see Espio, more of Espio, though, because we don't see a lot of him. And I don't want to talk about that story. This story is pretty good. It has very nice artwork. I forget the guy's name, the guy who does the artwork. Hold on, let me check. What's this guy's name again? Aaron Hammerstrom, that was it. Yeah, we love Aaron Hammerstrom. He's so good. He does all the best artwork. He gives that kind of Yuji Uekawa vibe to his artwork. Oh, he's so good. Anyway, come on, we're almost done. We're nearing the finish line. I know you guys have been here for 48 minutes. Just everybody chill, okay? This is the 30th anniversary. This is the deluxe edition, so it contains Free Comic Book Day 2021 within it, as well as the 30th anniversary story. This is not the same timeline as the IDW stuff. This is all set during the classic Sonic sort of era. Well, I mean, technically it is canon. It just takes place like 10 years earlier, but whatever. It's great. I would strongly recommend it. The story Sonic Learns to Drive is actually really funny, and Sonic's totally in character for all of that, which is a bit of a surprise because it was written by someone who's these people who have never done anything else for these comics, but they really get the character. Would definitely recommend. Then we have the Sonic Movie 2 prequel, or prequel, because we're funny now. It's weird seeing humans in these comics. I haven't seen humans in these comics because the humans aren't in these comics. It's weird seeing them. It was fine, I guess. Movie Sonic has never really been my favorite version of the character. Especially in the second movie, he was just kind of annoying. But it's fine. I accept this. It also canonizes that Vector and Espio exist in the movie universe, so that's pretty cool. I wouldn't massively recommend it. I don't think it's been reprinted. I may be wrong about that, but I don't know. It's whatever. Go read it if you want, but it's not massively important. The 5th anniversary edition of issue 1 is basically just a reprint with an added 4-page story at the end. Let me find it. Hold on. Yeah, here it is. Called Actually, what is it called? Familiar Territory, that's it. It's a really nothing story. You don't need it. It's not important to the plot in like any way at all. But I like it, so I bought it. Also, it has a kind of cool thing where it like sort of you can fold out like the cover and get like all of the covers for the first 4 issues as one thing. So that was cool. It's a cover by Tyson Hess for these original issues. And it's very good. Tyson Hess knows what he's doing. You can't really see it all in frame, but just trust me on this one. It's very good. I don't like how they put the blue borders between. I don't know why they did that. That was a weird choice. But it still looks good. Tyson Hess is a very, very cool guy. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, would I really recommend this one? No, not massively. It's an issue that you've probably all got already anyway. But, and Familiar Territory, I mean, it's a nice story. It's just not a very necessary one. It kind of explains what this red guy's been doing in the last 30 issues, but whatever. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a nice way to commemorate the event. Anyway, so recently they've just gone off with one-shots, right? The IDW team, Endless Summer. I actually kind of like this one. It's a story about just basically characters having fun. It feels more like a Sonic Universe sort of side story, and it is a side story. You know, it's not part of the main series, which is why I like it. Whisper seems to have gotten over almost murdering a innocent member of the team in issue 64 pretty quick, but whatever. Also, we've been seeing a lot of the Babylon Rogues recently. That's fine. I don't dislike them. It's a little bit weird. We don't see them that often, and all of a sudden they have 3 appearances in the space of about 2 months. But whatever. Anyway, this is 900th Adventure. What do you want me to say? 900th Adventure has been quite a controversial issue of the comic. It's basically a short story collection with a linked thread of the Warp Topaz being there. I like that Sonic's playing the guitar. He hasn't done that in years. It's always been an element of him in the comics. It's, you know, it's celebrating the fact that there have been 900 Sonic comics, including reprints. Oh, by the way, remember earlier when I said, okay, so the characters don't remember the events of 06, but then they land in one of the levels from 06 and Sonic says, all right, I recognize this place. No, you don't. Shut up. I mean, it's not very important to the plot, but it was fine. I liked it, I guess. It has some very nice artwork in it. Again, Aaron Hammerstrom knows what he's doing. It was fine. It was perfectly fine. I wouldn't not recommend it. You know, if you get the chance, yeah, sure, buy it. It has some very nice covers. The D cover is great. Now here we have Amy's 30th anniversary, which was good. I liked it. It was funny, actually. It was quite funny. It's like a classic sort of era set thing, which is nice. I appreciate it. It was good. It was good. I liked it. Ian Flynn, he knows what he's doing. Now, the final issue, the most recent issue of the comics. Remember how I said earlier, I don't think there are any bad issues of IDW Sonic? This is the one that I just straight up think is bad. And I feel mean, because the guy writing it, this is his first Sonic comic as far as I'm aware. You know, I don't want to be an asshole. I am, but I don't want to be. So when I say that the Sonic the Hedgehog Halloween special is bad, I'm doing it in the nicest way possible. At least I'm trying to. I'm trying to be nice, okay? I'm going to be as nice as possible. It's fine. It's a story about the Chaotix. And they go trick-or-treating, and Sonic goes trick-or-treating even though he's 15? Why, though? Trick-or-treating's not even fun. It's just something you do as a kid because you have to. Well, because everyone else does. I mean, that's what it was for me. I don't actually enjoy it. Do people enjoy trick-or-treating? They do? It's news to me. Sorry, I'm venting about my own life here. Fuck. Okay, the issue, though. They stop some kids from stealing sweets or candy, I guess. Why do they make this? Are they scraping the barrel here for story ideas? Because it feels like they're scraping the barrel. The moral of the story is don't steal. Wow, really? I didn't think of that. Also, it has the simultaneous best and also worst line of dialogue in the entire series. Correction. Tonight I am a cowboy and I'm going yeehaw mode. Thanks, Tails. Thanks, what's your name? Bouchard? Who's this guy? Mark Bouchard. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for that. We needed that. Tails, canonically, in the game universe, says, I am a cowboy and I'm going yeehaw mode. That's canon. Oh, whatever. I'm too mean. Why am I so mean? Anyway, we better wrap this up real quick because I don't want this video to hit the hour mark. That's just not acceptable, is it? Okay, Sonic Archives. Yeah, we're doing the Archie stuff now. I don't have a lot of it, so we're gonna get through this real quick. First 4 issues of Archie, they're fine. They're very lighthearted, very, very lighthearted. Nothing of any significance happens at all, and it's basically just a joke. It's a joke. It's like if you took, the 4-panel, strip comic you see in your local newspaper and just made it a comic book. This is, it's reprinted because they have to. Also, it's getting kind of old. 15th anniversary was ages ago. Here's volume 2, 5 to 8. Again, basically just a joke. Nothing significant happens at all. Volume 4, yeah, I'm missing volume 3. Again, it's just jokes. It's just jokes. Nothing. There's really not a lot to criticize because, well, nothing of any worth happens. Volume 5, this is like 17 to 20, I think. Yeah, I mean, they do a fake-out death. They actually redrew an old story that they never finished, so that was kind of cool. But, yeah, again, nothing real any worth happens. Volume 6, evil versions of the characters are here, but we just kind of defeat them real easily, and nothing of any worth happens. Now, skipping forward a bit, Volume 11, this is where it starts taking itself a bit more seriously. I think in issue 41, there's like it's obvious that Ken Penders, the guy who wrote it, had just got back from seeing GoldenEye, the Bond movie, and it is a good Bond movie, because this opening scene is literally just ripped straight from that movie. It's the same. And I guess Ken thought he was being too subtle, so he has Eggman say this line of dialogue. Wow. That's really clever. Ken, I don't care anymore. And then volume 17, which, yeah, the comic takes itself a lot more seriously by this point. There's like a guy called Nate Morgan, I think. He's like a human man who created the rings. There's a reason I haven't read a lot of the older Archie stuff. Number 1, it's way too expensive. Number 2, I'm not massively interested, to be perfectly honest. I would be reading all of the, Ian Flynn stuff. I just can't afford it. Why is it so expensive? Jesus Christ. Anyway, we're done. We've finished. We've saved the day, basically. That was my Sonic comic book collection. Now, I know how you're all feeling right now, because trust me, I'm feeling this exact same way. That was a little bit of a waste of time, just a little bit. I gotta go edit this now. I gotta put music, 58 minutes of music. This is all done in one take, by the way. I hope you know I didn't pause the camera a single time for this whole video. Jesus Christ. Anyway, see you around, guys.